Hello guys, and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me, Vulcan. Today I have you Herr Robert versus YueJin in round 4 lower bracket of the 5th Asia Pacific tournament. Today we are going to be seeing Odon, and on the allied side it's the 1st Pancerna versus YueJin and his 9th Panzer on the Axis side. So Herr Robert here with a division that he definitely enjoys playing. We see him on the 1st Pancerna quite a lot, and that's because he very much enjoys using the hurricanes to pin down his enemy early on in the game so that he can find himself a very strong advantage through the concentrated pushes that he makes. On the side of YueJin, with the 9th Panzer, it's a very standard division, not one that I've seen YueJin take to the field all too often, but has quite a lot of different options in both the Marders and then all of the 20mm armed units like the Panzer II Lux, the Befehl Panzer II, and so on. So YueJin's going to have to look for a way to maybe take advantage of those 20mm units, and could very much do so on the bottom side if he gets some nice close range engagements. But as he pulls out into this field, it could be a problem. The same problem kind of remains on the top side, so I reckon it's more likely we're going to see Marders and the like, as they would work out better. But against Hurricanes on the side of the 1st Pancerna, Marders are not ideal. Either way, let's have a look at what is going down. So for Herr Robert, he has a Cromwell 5 at the start. He's bringing in multiple Strelzy. He's got a command in there, a command infantry unit, and an AT gun. Further down, it's just going to be 2 units of Strelzy, so definitely a very concerted effort for Herr Robert on this top side by the looks of things, or maybe just straight through the middle in the town. It will be likely that Herr Robert can get his hands entirely on this town, as most Axis players on Odon tend to stop just short of the town and try and find advantages elsewhere, especially in places like this forest area, and on the bottom side where this is orchard, that this L shape kind of favours the red side of the map. But let's have a look at some of YueJin's units. So he bringing in a Panzer II Lux and a Panzer I-C. Those will likely head to the bottom side. Then he's got some Panzer guns in there, some Sturm Pioneers. He's got the command infantry and a Panzerschreck. For the top side, it's going to be some Panzer Grens in the 251 half tracks, and for the very top side, it's going to be a Marder 3 accompanied by a 251 with the speed troop. So those speed troops should be able to help this Marder 3 hold, but honestly, without a significant amount of infantry up there, it's going to be difficult for YueJin to push. But let's have a look at where these units are actually heading. So we've got the Ulster coming in. That's going to be trying to find recon information for Herr Robert. But it seems like the majority of his forces are actually heading towards the top, whereas towards the mid, whereas only a small amount are heading to the top. So Cromwell 5 is coming up the main road. It's going to be trying to hold its position there. The 6-pounder may be trying to push its way across the open, but he's in a bit of an odd position if you ask me. I think maybe having it in this top line tree line would be a lot better, but either way, maybe he's just trying to cover this road here. He's putting it in the line of sight of this road, so maybe assuming that something might come through there to contest these buildings. Pushing a Strelzy there may have been the best idea though, if he wanted to stop that. Meanwhile, sort of YueJin's just posturing on the bottom side, got the Panzer I-C and the Panzer II Lux in position. It's going to be looking for a push, probably around this bottom line, tree line here, especially if he brings up the Panzer Grenadiers and gets them to walk through here, which it looks like he's going to do. The 251 is putting some pressure on this top side. It's going to be forcing back the Strelzy. The 251 hasn't come under AT fire, so YueJin is free to push that forward and has the speed troop also running up as well. The Dragoni going to be trying to hide in this tree line, but as the speed troop get closer, they will be revealed, and that will stop that Piat from ambushing the 250-10, which could give YueJin quite a significant amount of information unless the 6-pounder gets involved sooner than later. I think Herr Robert there, he had unloaded the 6-pounder previously, but actually decided to pick it up, which was interesting, and is now going to have that trying to force back this half-track on the top side, because without that half-track there, honestly there's little support for the speed troop. Marder 3 is now coming up to join that though, so some ground being made for YueJin early on is finding himself a +1, which is very nice. Now Herr Robert in the mid, He is going to be trying to commit with this Cromwell 5. He is going to make a run across here with the Streltsy. The Panzer Grenadiers not quite in the edge building, so they don't have line of sight on these Streltsy as they advance, and that could be a really bad thing, as the Panzer Grenadiers want to use their range with the MG42s, whereas if they cannot do that and are engaged at the 100-meter range, then they suffer from having the same HE as the Streltsy, and therefore don't have an advantage that they otherwise would have had. The Streltsy in this case are obviously worse than the rifles that we may be used to seeing, but they still pack a punch at close range relative to a Panzer Grenadier squad. Streltsy on the bottom side have been hit pretty hard here by the SDKFZ 251, and the Panzer 1C I believe briefly fired upon that. The Panzer Grens opening up with their MGs as well. And this Cromwell 5 though making short work of anything that comes up against. It's 2 stars, so should be able to kill this half-track quite nicely. In the top we can see that the Marder 3 is being strafed around by the Hurricane Mark IV, but the addition of the SDKFZ 7-1 from YueJin is a very nice choice, as it will prevent a lot of the aggression from those Hurricanes. Meanwhile, 251-2 is going to mortar and kill off the 6-pounder in the main field, so that is very nice indeed, but this Stuart 5 is getting very aggressive in the face of this Marder 3 since it is pinned down. Speed through have been cleaned up there. Meanwhile, in the centre area though, a lot of the Streltsy that were trying to make some ground did get chewed up and spat out by the 251 and the Panzer 1C. You can see that the strength of these squads has significantly decreased. However, they did manage to clean up the Panzer Grenadiers and may be able to solidify their position, taking more of these buildings, especially if some Dragoni or something came along and sat in there with their Piats. Also, an engagement between a Cromwell 5 and a Panzer 2 looks will fall in favour of Herr Robert, so that's something he could look to take advantage of. But at the moment, YueJin in not a very good position here, with this huge salient in favour of Herr Robert, but nothing that can't be plugged quite easily. Focke-Wulf 190 is looking for the engagement with the Hurricane Mark IV. I like how YueJin is taking advantage of the speed of the Focke-Wulf in order to find a favourable engagement against it. So managing to get back on target there will force it to fall back. Can probably loop round again. You can see that YueJin sort of micros that on purpose so that he does get onto the back of the Hurricane, and definitely going to be going for a kill there with that Focke-Wulf, as it will leave this Hurricane Mark IV in the dust as it chases that down. Will it find the kill though? Yes it will, just before the Hurricane is likely to retreat. So the 251 now helping out pin down some of this infantry. The Panzergrens there. This Focke-Wulf I think will probably get out alive, although a really nice timed Hurricane Mark IV there coming in off the field is going to shoot down the Focke-Wulf, and I like that a lot. Herr Robert bringing in a third Hurricane Mark IV, probably something that YueJin didn't expect Herr Robert to commit to so early on, but was kind of forced to in that air engagement if he wanted to find the kill onto the Focke-Wulf. Really nice job by this SDKFZ 7-1. Is going to prevent this Marder 3 from being pinned down. As you can see, the Hurricane's forced away from that. Alster is going to be coming all the way back towards the spawn here of YueJin. We'll see probably the Marder 3 coming in. Let's have a look. Yes, it will. So Herr Robert's going to know what's coming, but whether or not he can use that information to his advantage remains to be seen. Meanwhile, on this top side, the Panzer Grenadiers are now coming under fire from the M5 half-track and the Stuart 5, which is definitely not a place they want to be in, due to that being 430 cals on target between the two vehicles, and of course the main gun of the Stuart. So they're taken down to just one man, the rest of the squad dying. The Panzer Grenadiers are going to be trying to get rid of this Streltsy squad on the bottom side, but the Cromwell 5 is going to be moving down that way to prevent infantry from moving across the open. And I like Herr Robert's sort of reaction to YueJin's play so far, whilst he's been continuing to hold on to this salient. But as mentioned, the salient pretty easy to close with just one unit of infantry here, Panzergrens, coming up to contest these buildings. Now it's going to be important that YueJin checks all of these buildings before he gets his units too close by. The Panzer 1C could maybe be used to reveal some infantry, but you've always got to be careful of the 200 meter range of the Piats, regardless of how unreliable they are. This Streltsy actually managing to stay hidden in that building is quite impressive, with the return fire there. Alistair easily spotting this Marder 3 now. I think, honestly though, YueJin set himself up quite nicely for Phase B. You have a relatively strong Phase A with the 9th Panzer, but moving into Phase B, you do get access to Panzer 4s and 125 points per minute, which can really be exploited against the 1st Pancerna if the only thing they're bringing is a Firefly. So maybe we'll see YueJin be able to bring this back in Phase B quite nicely. But here come the Hurricane Mark 4s once again. They're going to be pinning down the Sturm Pioneers in this forest. Streltsy are going to be trying to take advantage of that, but this Marder 3 was not the one to be strafed, so able to freely shoot and kill the Cromwell 5. Very nice indeed. Really, really good kill there for YueJin. Shame the Hurricane Mark 4s didn't pin that, but obviously used to favour the infantry engagement instead. Panzer 2 looks and Panzer 1Cs, they're going to be coming around the corner, and with this Cromwell 5 out of the way, can definitely take advantage of this position. I didn't quite expect that Cromwell 5 to go down, but now that it's not there, the Panzer 2 looks and Panzer 1C have so much dominance over this bottom side. Hurricane Mark 4s are going to be used to sort of nullify that for the time being, but any form of AA comes in on this bottom side, and YueJin's going to have himself an almighty advantage. So YueJin going to be looking to maybe just cut off some more ground in the mid here. You can see he's deploying quite a conservative Panzer Grenadier, so that if any infantry tries to make some cheeky ground, he can pin them down. The Panzerschreck is coming onto the top side with a command, and that's going to be looking to maybe kill off the Stuart 5 and M5 half-track if they get too close to the forests. But here we go. Panzer 2 looks going to be pushing up again. A lot of these Hurricanes, or at least 2 of them, are getting low on fuel. This may be the time now for YueJin to really take advantage of his position here, but a reinforcing infantry would be very nice at this point. He does have some Sturm Pioneers on the way. More Panzer Grenadiers to maybe capture and hold these buildings would be fantastic. Now the M5 half-track here is moving up. That would be looking maybe for the surrender onto these tanks when they get strafed by the Hurricanes, but not knowing what's in these forests is really going to stop him from making that push entirely. Stuart 5 has now arrived. It's a nice response actually to these vehicles, as it has just enough armour to bounce a lot of the shots from these vehicles at max range. 251-2 going to be trying to pin down these Streltsy so the Panzer Grenadiers can maybe make a move towards them, but instead just going to carry on their way back into that hedgerow. 251-2 now arriving on this bottom side. I'm not entirely sure what that's going to be going for. Maybe YueJin's going to try and force some of these infantry engagements with the Sturm Pioneers. Try and, for example, get rid of these Dragoni and any other Streltsy that get in his way by pinning them down before engaging them with the Sturm Pioneers. That's what it looks like is going to happen. However, investing in more AA is definitely a better idea, and that looks like what he's doing. He has brought in a Flak 36 now that will be able to help force back those Hurricanes and prevent them from pinning down any pushes he tries to make, like what happened previously. But there is a Sherman 5 on the field, and this could be quite hard to break through. He does of course have this 2-star Marder 3, as long as it stays by command that should remain the case, and that may be able to snipe the Sherman 5 from range as it comes into line of sight. You can see that YueJin does have the ability to hit it from that range, and well, 2 more AP than armor might be enough. I think Herr Robert maybe though could have got away with fast moving up that road rather than falling back at this point, but either way, still a relatively good decision just to not let it get killed by the Marder 3 in the first place. Panzer 2 looks is going to be looking for a push onto that Dragoni, but it looks like a Piat was fired and missed the Panzer 2 looks. Sturm Pioneers going to be using their smoke grenade there to break the cover, or make some cover even, so that they can push onto the Streltsy in the building. But one thing you've got to note is that the flamethrowers cannot be used if they're in the same building as the people they are fighting. And the Marder 3 causing a bit of an issue here for the Sherman 5 trying to advance. But it does get one of the, I think, half tracks here got taken out by the command infantry with the Pier. So that Marder 3 can't really go too much further right now. With the assistance of the mortar though, this Dragoni squad is getting torn apart. The half track that was originally bringing those in has now been killed. But all the while, this is remaining at a 50-50 now, and neither player really has a significant lead. Stem Pioneers did get close enough to kill the Streltsy. Now they're going to be looking to clean out the command infantry as well. As they get closer, they will be spotted. Probably need to be almost directly next to the building, but the flamethrower is going to force them out, and the command infantry gets killed. And that was a very nice trade there from YueJin, because knowing that the Pier is no longer there will definitely allow him to play up a bit more with his armor in the future, especially the Marder 3. Although I'm not a fan of that moving its position. Maybe it was moved because of the Sherman 5 though. Seeing the Sherman 5 sort of behind the other Sherman 5 at range, you know that that's off map. And if the Marder 3 gets pinned down, then it can put you in a really bad spot. But almost got a shot there onto the universal carrier that was carrying the 6-pounder, and that would have been a sweet kill indeed. So yes, indeed, off map going to be coming down from Herr Robert. Unfortunately, due to viewing this in the special viewer, we can't see exactly where they're placing it before it comes down, but you can see it noticeably hitting that area. YueJin retreating from that before it happened. So very smart play indeed. Panzer Grenadiers are going to be coming to this top side just to sort of solidify these buildings, as Herr Robert has pushed some Streltsy into that forest. But you can see how it's much easier for YueJin to control the bot and top side of the map rather than the mid. Like Herr Robert's pushing out in the mid here due to the way that the tree lines are, whereas sort of YueJin can freely sort of control the other sides where the orchards are instead. And that's often what happens on Odon. So 251-2 going to be trying to take advantage of the 6-pounder that has now unloaded. Panzer Grenadiers going to be trying to pin down more infantry as they push across the open. Half track might find itself caught out here. Well, lucky that that shot did not kill it, but going to be getting away for now. Panzergrenadier going to be moving up, trying to provide veterancy for the Marder 3, I believe. He's going to need the veterancy on it if he wants to successfully kill the Sherman 5. Off map coming in again onto the half track this time, the mortar half track. Hurricane Mark 4s are going to try and strafe that Marder 3 to death. But now there's 2 Flak 36s on the field. Certainly gives YueJin the range he needs to start pinning down these Hurricanes. Those Hurricanes definitely losing their effectiveness the later it gets into the game, and that's mainly just due to the fact that anti-air is invested upon more so as the game continues, and therefore Hurricanes are not as useful. Pioneers are going to be moving into this tree line now. Will trade very effectively against Streltsy, so that will be something that happens up there. Meanwhile, Panzergrenadier took some shots as they moved across this bottom side. Marder 3 surviving those Hurricanes though is very important, as YueJin will want to keep up the presence here on this bottom side, even in the face of things like the Shermans. Like the Shermans in this situation for Herr Robert are just really good, because if they engage a Marder 3 at close range and they survive the first shot, the Sherman will almost always win, because it just aims so much quicker than a Marder ever will. Meanwhile, on this top side though, Marder 3 has been snuck round, and a very sneaky move here from YueJin, using the full length of this map to get into a position where he is not in range of the Stuart itself, but able to fire upon it. First shot gets the track will destroy, third shot gets the kill. Marder 3 gonna maybe be pinned down by this Hurricane Mark 4, but just a little bit too late. Marder 3 in the meantime killing off a reinforcing infantry, and the Focke-Wulf 190 there, assisted by the AA, able to take out one of the Hurricanes. It will be forced to fall back, but I'm not sure that a Hurricane is going to be able to get on its tail unless Herr Robert micros this nicely. But yeah, the AA just going to hold him back for now, and a second Focke-Wulf is on the field, so this Hurricane could be in trouble if it sticks about. Either way, in the meantime, more artillery coming down, and that's going to force back the Panzer IV-H. The artillery from the Sherman 5 OP hasn't been super successful in terms of killing things, but it's definitely forced YueJin out of favourable positions. So for example, pushing back this Panzer IV on the bottom side gives room for infantry to move across the open like it is doing so here. Pushing back the Marder III, for example, gets rid of it covering this main road, and that's very important as well, so that he can continue to reinforce. So that's, although it won't necessarily have paid itself off as such, it's given Herr Robert a nice position on this bottom side. However, he is losing control over this top side to YueJin, having the Stuart 5 being killed. Also, the Pioneers freely able to clean out the Streltsy, just trade so damn well. But one thing I would like to see is a Panzer Grenadier sort of accompany the Pioneers to take out this M5 half-track and push maybe through the orchard if he can. He may not need to do that if he just brings up the Marder III and can get that into a good position. But Herr Robert now responding with this 17-pounder. Now the Marder III there finding a really nice kill onto the M3 command, but the Sherman, sorry, coming out big with the kill onto that Marder III. First shot does the job. Pioneer's going to be trying to kill off the Streltsy, are going to need to fall back, because if that Streltsy recovers and the Pioneers are still pinned, then that's going to be some surrendered Pioneers there. Panzer IV-H, oh, really nice strafing run there from the Hurricane Mark IV. Is going to force it back into line of sight of the Sherman 5, and Herr Robert was just waiting to take advantage of that. Meanwhile, on the top side, the 17-pounder did kill the Marder, so that is a very nice couple kills there. One Marder down on the bottom, one Marder down on the top side. It might even cause this Panzer IV-H to go down as well. It really depends on the Sherman 5 decides to attack the Panzer IV. You can see it changed its target after the Panzer IV was forced to fall back. But has all the time in the world here as long as that Panzer IV remains in line of sight, and, well, I'm not sure it had much room to back up there. But Sherman 5 catching it in time, finding the bailout, finding the kill. Very nice job indeed. Panzer IV-H moving forwards on this bottom side now, trying to accompany some of the infantry here. Doesn't want the Sturm Pioneers to be killed for free, so going to be trying to get the Panzer IV-H to help out, but just a little bit too late. The 251-2 is going to be coming in up here and placing down some smoke. It looks like the 17-pounder did take a little bit of a hit previously. But what's happening is basically the smoke is coming down to cover maybe the Firefly from hitting these units on the top. He doesn't want his AA to be killed, for example. But a really nice hit there. Panzer IV-H does get engine destroyed by the 6-pounder. The 6-pounder in just such a cheeky position, have just enough line of sight through this gap to find that kill onto the Panzer IV, and that is absolutely devastating for YueJin. We're now into phase C, so Tiger E's are a thing, and YueJin's going to be bringing one of those in for the top side. But Herr Robert will also have access to more Fireflies. So if Herr Robert can use the Fireflies to kill the Tiger E's, then he's going to be in the driving seat for the rest of this game. However, if the Tiger E's find the kill onto the Fireflies, then things could very easily fall in favour of YueJin. So we're still balancing on a knife edge here. The only difference really is that Herr Robert will have the 17-pounders that are really annoying for the Tiger E. And the Fireflies, well, they'll be okay, but they don't have as much veterancy. Either way, Hurricanes coming in, they're going to be strafing the speed troop. Get rid of that recon would be really, really nice so that Herr Robert can maintain his ambush position in this tree line. But it's not going to end well, I don't think. This Focke-Wulf 190 in such a perfect position to just find those 2 kills onto the Hurricanes. And I'm pretty sure at this point Herr Robert has no Hurricanes left. His Focke-Wulf 190 is going to be free to fall back. And it's completely covered by AA here. So Mustang Mark III, I'd be surprised if that gets the kill. Going to be forced to fall back. So really, really good job by YueJin. Cleaned up that air aggression from Herr Robert. Now can definitely focus on his ground game here. And he's going to be making a push with the Marder III and the Tiger E. And has already brought in some replacement speed troop. Probably assuming that these speed troop would fall down. So good call there from YueJin. Meanwhile, on this bottom side, I think it's up to Herr Robert to go aggressive. He took out so much armor down here. Took out, I think, 2 Panzer IVs, one here and one here. He took out the Marder 3. So getting some Streltsy forwards is going to be very important. Maybe accompanied by some recon. Might find himself a breakthrough. But it really does depend if the Streltsy can even get close, because there's a very real opportunity that YueJin can just keep a lot of this infantry pinned with his own, and that will sort of make Herr Robert unable to push forwards due to the fact that the Streltsy won't be able to get to the tree lines in order to cover the tanks as they advance, like the Sherman 5 for example. So Marder 3 and Tiger working together, definitely making some room on this top side. But once again, similar to the bottom side for Herr Robert, YueJin's got to bring in some infantry that can push to this tree line. Because if he doesn't control this tree line, then this Firefly can sit here all day long, and he basically can't engage that without risking losing at least one or even both of his significant armored units on that top side. It's always important to advance first with your infantry, and where you can, support them. So this is smart, and as soon as he gets his Streltsy into these trees and sees that there's not too much behind it, just maybe some half tracks, as long as he can identify where enemy infantry is, he's going to be safe to move forwards to Sherman 5, and therefore probably will. But a +1 currently on the board for YueJin is counting up to the 250 point mark, which, considering how long we've been in this game, is not that significant. The 17 pounder, well, I think there was a Firefly there, managed to catch out the half track on the top side, but this 17 pounder is very, very scary for the Tiger E and the Marder 3. Space Troop will spot that pretty much immediately as it comes through the tree line, but that is still really, really bad for the Tiger. First shot, internal fragments the Tiger. Second shot gets the kill. Those reload so quickly when they have high veterancy. Fortunately for YueJin, the Flak 36 is going to pin that 17 pounder down almost immediately. But the Tiger E died first, and that is not a place that he wants to be in. The Tigers are really what he relies on as the backbone of his push as the 9th Panzer in the late game. And losing them so easily there to a 17 pounder, it's just really, really tough. And there's not really too much you can do about it. Again, it's a matter of controlling this tree line by either running infantry at it or having some recon close by, and regardless of the fact he had recon here, the 17 pounder is still able to ambush him because he can't see what is coming over on the other side of the tree line. And that's the biggest problem that comes with pushing in Steel Division. You've got to have infantry ahead of yourself. So for example, down here on the bottom side, Herr Robert would need to have these Streltsy really in these positions on this tree line and in this tree line if he wants to have a chance of pushing through it, because he's probably only just discovered that the Tiger E has arrived, and that's really going to stop a Sherman 5 in its tracks. So now he's not only got to get infantry into these positions, he's also got to take out a Tiger E, which is currently making short work of his 6 pounder. Now YueJin's not in a terrible position here. It will class as a draw overall in the game, but in this tournament, whoever gets the most score wins regardless. So that's what YueJin will kind of be relying on here, because he is in a very precarious position. The 9th Panzer kind of runs out of steam in the late game, especially if the Tigers are killed, and one is down. So YueJin doesn't necessarily have the resources he'd probably like on this top side. Now there is a Pak 40 on the way, and that is a very smart move to kind of counter the movements of a Firefly now that there's not a Tiger to do the job. He can also unload that in a position where it can take out the 17 pounders if they show themselves as well. So just a really, really good choice. Robert, however, he's going to be bringing in another 17 pounder, but if he wants to win this game, he's going to have to find himself a +1 at some point. And where he can find it is probably on the bottom side. Like I mentioned with the armor he'd killed previously, that's why this Tiger E has arrived here. Because he killed the 2 Panzer IVs and the Marder 3. Now if he kills the Tiger as well, that's going to leave him in such a good position. Now YueJin is trying to be sneaky here, fast move his Tiger into a position where it had line of sight onto the Sherman 5. Herr Robert identifies that, even smokes off the gap. So smart play. But the main way you're going to deal with this Tiger is maybe to have a 17 pounder, and these 17 pounders on the top side would be ideal. So maybe just get this one that's been reloaded and just bring it down to the bottom side. Because again, finding a kill onto the Tiger, breaking through down here could be absolutely devastating for YueJin and definitely lead to a +1. Now YueJin bringing in the Panzer at this point and allowing that to kill one of the rifle squads is actually very, very nice. It's not necessarily very cost effective, but it gives Herr Robert that worry that there is a Panzer in the way, and that if he wants to get aggressive, he's going to have to find and kill that. Now the 251-2 mortar half track does get taken out there. Panzer II are trying to push through towards the mid at the moment, but they bumped into a Stuart 5, and that will be able to deal with those at max range. Tiger E is zoomed back down to the bottom side, and that's going to be trying to clean up the 6 pounder, no doubt. This 6 pounder though could probably be doing with being put on like return fire, just so that the AT gun does not reveal itself to the Tiger E, because at max range it basically has 0 chance of penetration. Marder 3 up here, that's going to be engaging some Streltsy as they push across, but these Streltsy are getting dangerously close to the Panzer. But that Panzer can't really afford to run away at this point. Maybe just putting them on return fire or turning off their MP40 so they don't reveal themselves would have been a better idea. But if the Streltsy come into the tree line, then that may not be a problem, since all of the fire support is just going to rip them to shreds, and goodbye to the Streltsy. Yeah, having them just close enough there to kill off the Panzer would have probably taken a lot of Herr Robert's mind, but letting them go into the tree line, not the best bet. Now the 6 pounder has survived down here so far, but with the 251-2 on the case, may not be for long. Off map does come in from the Sherman 5 and kills off the Pak 40, so that gets rid of one problem that the Sherman was facing, but another one has arrived in the form of a second Pak 40, and a Marder 3 is on the way. So YueJin ticking the +1 once again. Just going to be trying to hold the ground against Herr Robert's push. But like I mentioned, if this Tiger goes down, there could be a lot of ground made for Herr Robert. The Tiger is 3-star. It's going to pop this Sherman, surely. It's got all the time in the world. It's taking its sweet time to aim. Going to take out the 6 pounder first. 17 pounder though has arrived, and this is a dangerous position now for the Tiger. As soon as that 17 pounder opened up, you do not want to leave that Tiger in the line of sight of that 17 pounder. It looks like Herr Robert might be doing him a favour though. Actually, never mind, it was the Panzer coming down from YueJin. He's going to be dropping some smoke, trying to cover off his Tiger E, as it does come under some severe fire there, gets a track wheel damage. Yeah, very nice smoke wall there created by the Panzer, the beauty of having smoke grenades on your command units. Pak 40 is in trouble on this top side. Firefly can be able to shoot directly at that and try and pin it down. It's also going to have a significant advantage against the Marder 3s, but I think having this Firefly come up sooner than later, just up the main road, would be a really nice idea, as it will really do much better than a Firefly 1C, since Firefly 5C not only has more veterancy, but the extra 1 armor on the front, which will take away that little bit extra penetration chance that a Marder 3 would have against a Firefly. But the Marder's gone down there for YueJin now. The Tiger E is still kind of in trouble on the bottom side. With his track wheel damage, it is very slow, so it could find itself still in line of sight of the 17 pounder very shortly, and you can see that's exactly what's happening. Sherman 5 takes a shot from the Tiger, but the 17 pounder I think did the job. Tiger down. So now YueJin left in a very desperate situation, still winning the air war, as YueJin always seems to do, but on this top side, the Fireflies are putting the Marders under a lot of pressure, and there's certainly going to be a lack of armor at this point left for YueJin to rely on. So he's now being forced to bring in his Befehl Panzer 4s, And those don't really match up to Fireflies very well, especially on this top side, where the Firefly could easily engage a reinforcing Panzer IV from the 1,200 meter range. Oh, nice hit there for the Pak 40 though. Panzergrenführer being close enough by to give that the 2-star veterancy. Might find that the Firefly does go down. However, I believe that Pak 40 is instead firing at the Firefly 5C. The Focke-Wulfs do come in, take out the Mustang. This is just a matter of YueJin trying to hold on right now, because if this Pak 40 goes down, he's going to be losing a significant amount of territory. The Marder 3 is just going to be constantly under pressure, especially with a 17-pounder being transported right up in its face. Firefly going to be able to clean it up though. Cleans up the half track. We're seeing a +1 now for Herr Robert, but it's not going to be enough to find him a victory just yet. Befehlpanzer moving down to this bottom side is just going to be able to cover off any advance that Herr Robert tries to make down here, because inevitably, with Herr Robert being behind in this game at the moment, he is going to want to make ground, has probably realised that he needs to make more than a +1 in order to win, so is going to get pretty desperate, and reinforcing with this Befehlpanzer IV on the bottom side is very smart. On the top side though, I'd like to see this Befehlpanzer use its 1,000 meter range and not get picked off at range, which is exactly what YueJin is doing. You can see him pulling it off the main train track there and just moving it behind the houses so that he can always engage at the 1,000 meter range instead of being outranged by those Fireflies, but never will really want to take a 2v1 engagement anyway, so this is just a matter of playing defense with the Panzer IV-H until Herr Robert decides to get up in his face, and he's going to be forced to at this point. 251-2 is going to take out that 17-pounder, which will allow the Befehlpanzer IV to come around this bottom side. It did engage and take out the Sherman 5 here whilst we were looking up on the top side. So that's actually given YueJin quite a lot of room to breathe down here. And honestly, yeah, with that Sherman 5 gone, and the 17-pounder taken out as well, there isn't any more AP value units here to stop a push from YueJin. We can see the MU-109, that's going to be rocketing the Firefly. And whilst that happens, a Panzer IV comes out of hiding and finds that kill. Very, very nice indeed. Sherman 5 now going to be engaging the Befehlpanzer IV at close range. Chelsea trying to make some ground here. Still, Herr Robert, I'm not sure if this +1 is going to be enough to find him the victory. Befehlpanzer IV does take out the Crusader AA. 251 does surrender those Strelzy. These Strelzy are going to be found and likely surrendered as well when they come under fire from the Befehlpanzer IV and the Mobilwagen. So this +1 is teetering for sure. Like Herr Robert, he's got 4.5 minutes. At a +1, he might just make it. But YueJin does have the upper hand on the bottom side. His Befehlpanzer IV should defeat Cromwell IV quite handily. The Mobilwagen is engaging the Bofors 40mm though, and that's definitely going to fall in favour of the Mobilwagen, since the Mobilwagen has 5 front armour, whereas the Bofors has none. Now more infantry is arriving up here. That might prevent Strelzy from sneaking more ground off YueJin. But this artillery is really smart from Herr Robert. He's trying to basically pin this Panzer IV as much as he can. And he might get to a point where he can just fast move the Firefly and the Sherman into its face and force it to choose, and then he will just trade basically. Yeah, YueJin coming up with the Stern Pioneers is nice. Just gonna be unloading that there, and you can see he's queued the attack move order for the half track afterwards. MU-109 G2 BR-21 going to come in and try and rocket the 17-pounder there. It takes down to 1 health, I believe, and the Sherman 5. But there is another 1 health AT gun, and we all know these 1 health AT guns are the deadliest. So maybe YueJin can prove us wrong. But currently just trying to pick up the kill onto the Sherman 5 to prevent that from being a threat in the future. Panzer IV is trying to push this engagement against the Cromwell IV on the bottom side. Can he find the kill? Gets the weapon jam, which is enough to take it out of commission, and will allow basically the half tracks and all of this infantry to continue to push forwards. 52% territory still in favour of Herr Robert, but honestly, it might not stay that way for very long. If YueJin can just make a little bit more ground down here, he can stop the +1 tick, and Herr Robert will basically be left out to dry for the rest of this game, because it's coming right down to the wire here. It really is. Focke-Wulf 190s and the ME-109 come in to try and take out that 17-pounder with 1 health, but we all know 17-pounders, or especially AT guns with 1 health, are the deadliest. Apparently in this case, the most survivable, or resilient, that's probably a better word, as kind of just shrug off that airstrike. The one man using that giant shield to his advantage. You just imagine the crewmen just like pushing each other out of the crew, or out from behind the AT shield, dying one by one until the last man is victorious and gets to use that shield forever, and therefore never dies. 251-2 going to be trying to counter battery this mortar. Half tracks are moving forwards quite aggressively down here. YueJin really just wants to cancel this +1. That's all he's got to do, and he will win by overall score victory. And well, it looks like Robert's also run out of armor at this point, as he is relying on a stag hound here. I think he had another one, but it's dead now. Yeah, it got killed. So a second stag hound coming out. Sherman 5 is on the way. Might be able to match up to the Panzer 4 quite nicely, but the ground will have already been made, especially with the Panzer Grenadiers getting into position. Now, meanwhile, on the top side, a Panzer 4 does go down, gets engaged upon at range, and dies because of it. But a +1 now in favour of YueJin with this ground control on the bottom side is pretty much going to seal the deal. Even at a +1, Herr Robert would definitely not tick over YueJin's score now. And that is probably devastating for him at this point, because it's been such a hard slog. Both players have really played this well though, sort of playing to the limit of how much they can push, both on the top side and bottom side, the entire game. Now the Befehl Panzer going to be looking for an engagement with this Staghound. And with the assistance of the Focke-Wulfs, maybe even the ME-109 might be able to make that happen. But the Befehl Panzer 4 easily deals with a Staghound. Might even be able to kill off this Sherman 5, but 54% territory lead. 10 seconds left on the clock. I think one of the most important things about this match was just YueJin cleaning up the Hurricanes as much as he did. He killed all 4 of them. And YueJin's airplay has just been absolutely spectacular recently. He's really managing these Focke-Wulfs very well, taking advantage of their speed to gain advantage in the air, and therefore not having to worry about the Hurricanes later in the game allows him to sort of play his own game with the 9th Panzer, which is often quite ground reliant since their air force is mediocre at best. Now, in terms of kills and losses, you can see that it is very close. Herr Robert even had the kill advantage towards the end with the 3,135 kills to 2,790 losses. But unfortunately, due to the rules of the tournament, YueJin is going to be moving on. We do not get to see a second game between these guys, which would have been absolutely awesome. But yeah, YueJin's going to be moving on to the round 5 of the lower bracket, whilst Herr Robert is going to be knocked out. And that is really unfortunate, like I already mentioned. So yeah, the kills probably falling in favour of Herr Robert due to probably mainly the Tigers. Those Tigers obviously costing quite a significant amount, 240 points apiece. Did kill quite a few Panzer 4s along the way and Marders and so on. So YueJin was stretched thin at some points, but wasn't completely capitalised upon by Herr Robert. I think there was one opportunity where he killed both of the Panzer 4s on the bottom side and the Marder 3. That's when it probably would have been safe to just charge with those Streltsy and cover it with the Sherman 5. That would have made him a lot of ground, I think. But in the heat of the moment, he was also taking an engagement with YueJin on the top side, which is maybe why he either didn't notice he'd got so many kills or was not kind of concentrating on that area in order to make it happen. But the Cromwell 5s and Stuarts, they didn't really pay themselves off very well. It was this Sherman 5 on the bottom, I think, just did so much work. It was really, really well placed. And the 6-pounder in that little tree area that shot through the gap, I'm going to have to remember that one because that was really, really smartly placed. It kind of basically prevented any armor from pushing round that L sort of tree line on the bottom side with the orchard. Anything that showed itself on either side would have been picked off by the 6-pounder. So really smart placement there of that AT gun. And YueJin didn't really have, I think, the range to take it out because it was placed quite far back. So the mortar probably didn't have range, which is another reason why it was such a good place to put it. 17 pounds taken out the martyr there. The Firefly 1C was well managed on the top side, in my opinion. It took advantage of line of sight where it could to pick off all of these little units. It didn't sort of unnecessarily reveal itself to the Marder 3 and Tiger when they were live. It kind of just played around that until the Firefly 5Cs came in, and then, you know, that allows Herr Robert to be a bit more liberal with his tank usage. The use of the 140mm off map actually on the bottom side from Herr Robert was very nice. I liked that a lot. Just sort of dislodging the fixed positions that YueJin had. Like, he'd set up that Marder 3 to have line of sight onto the road, and sort of pushing it out the way with the off map was just really nice. Allowed him to continue to like reinforce that bottom side and put himself in a stronger position. The 4.2-inch mortars, they didn't do particularly too much. Firefly just about paid itself off. In terms of losses, well, Marder 3s, they are okay, and they're kind of worrying though into this matchup. Like the Hurricanes can pin down Marder 3s quite a lot, so I'm surprised that YueJin maybe took one straight away. But the fact that he almost immediately backed it up with the flak-filling on the SDK of Z7 really showed YueJin's understanding of the matchup, because it prevented the Hurricanes from ever fully pinning down the Marder 3. Maybe it got pinned a couple times, but that was due to overwhelming amounts of Hurricanes, which all ended up getting fallen back anyway. So yeah, YueJin just making it very difficult for Herr Robert to use those Hurricanes in the early game, and therefore utilizing the ability of those Marder 3s in the process. But the Focke-Wulfs managed very well as usual. You can see they got those Hurricane kills and even the Mustang Mark 3s. The Panzer II looks, some of those even came in the late game to make a dent, but it was these Befehl Panzer 3 or Befehl Panzer 4s that really saved the day for YueJin, especially after the Tigers went down. You can see how much damage those did, and even killing a Firefly there, Cromwell 4, this one on the bottom side, Sherman 5, Crusader AA, Staghound, 2 Staghounds. This one led the charge to give YueJin those little extra points that just broke the heart of Herr Robert in the late game. So yeah, absolutely fantastic game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.